devil calling. Hear the devil calling. Well, I hear the devil calling. Gotta pay him what he's due. I can't stop the dogs of war. I can't stop the dogs of war. See the fields burning. See the fields burning. Well, I see the fields burning, 'cause hell is coming through. I can't stop the dogs of war. I can't stop the dogs of war. Well, I feel the river rising, devil's coming up for you. I can't stop the dogs of war. 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 See the fields burning. See the fields burning. Well, I see the fields burning, 'cause hell is coming through. I can't stop the dogs of war. I can't stop the dogs of war. Feel the river rising. Feel the river rising. Well, I feel the river rising, devil's coming up for you. I can't stop the dogs of war. I can't stop the dogs of war. I can't stop the dogs of war. I can't stop the dogs of war.
Welcome to the Dire Wolf Show, where we believe that America is exceptional and that our constitutional rights should never be infringed. I am Dire Wolf. On our show, we bring you the truth and debunk fake news. If you love laughing at the insanity of the regressive left, sit back and relax. Boy, do I have a show for you. Welcome back, Wolfpack. This is your unidentified secret president-elect, Direwolf here, for our weekly news recap behind enemy lines on YouTube, where speech is not free and the truth is demonetized, and we will soon be banned. Alongside me is my unidentified vice president-elect from the office of the vice president-elect, Fox Trevize. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. Little bit of koofy today, though. Not the koof, just a koof.
A coof.
A koof, not the koof. So I did get tested, so I'm not digitally coughing on Direwolf, so fear not.
I appreciate that. So, of course, many thanks to all the people who make this show possible. This is your fault. You should be ashamed of yourself. Kaylet, Ori Main, Nathan, Cameron, Tetris Freak, Slowpoke, Thunder Erican, who I hear is female, and White Lion. Also, special thanks to Timberwolf. And everyone else who just simply shares, subscribes, likes, all those fun things. They're helpful. Though I would definitely encourage you guys, come see us on other platforms other than YouTube, like DLive or Twitch. The links for both are in the description of the YouTube video.
There, I fixed the date. Are you guys happy?
That's funny. So our first story is just really short, but YouTube has recently come out with a rule saying that they're trying to protect the misinformation and disinformation and election integrity.
Yes, they're trying to protect the misinformation, because if YouTube doesn't protect the misinformation,
who else will?
Who will? Who's going to defend the misinformation and the lies but for YouTube?
Right, we are dependent on them for that. So they basically are saying that after, I believe it was the 8th, that they weren't going to allow any videos that claimed that there was A, fraud in the election, and B, that in the same context, saying that that same fraud had affected the outcome of the election. So, though we obviously have done this already, and they're saying they're going to remove any videos that were done in the past without giving a strike. But moving forward, they will give strikes for anyone who does that. So we'll definitely be doing that off of YouTube lots of times because you can't hide the truth. So
what if we were to say that it was Russian interference in the 2016 election, though?
If you say there was... See, that's okay.
Oh.
Because
okay.
It is based on a political opinion, who is banned and who is not. So, yes, you can definitely say that Trump was never a legitimate president because of fraud and foreign interference. But if you say the same thing about our current president, see, that is misinformation, disinformation. Even though Trump was proven through multiple investigations that all the claims against him were false, but videos claiming that he was illegitimate still are on the platform today. Definitely not a double standard.
Well, they're still being created. I mean, as recently as like 3 weeks ago, Nancy was still citing that Trump ought to be quiet because he stole the election in 2016. So,
right. So, obviously, the standard does not apply to everyone. Just Trump, apparently. So, on to our first full-length story. But just as a starter, please follow us in DLive.
Also, Dyer, there is some debate in chat. You said you were from the office of the president-elect. Everyone thought you were the president-erect. So, I mean, do you want to clarify that? Are you no longer the president-erect?
No, I am both.
Oh, okay.
I am both very, very much erect, and I am still very much president-elect. And I think that I'm glad we cleared that up. I would hate anyone to think that we are going to be a flaccid president.
Yes.
So moving on.
Please. All right. So you heard of Hunting Hitler? How about Hunting Hunter, which is also one of Dyer's dogs? He's a bad boy. So Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's brother, James Biden, are both under investigation for money laundering. Yes, it was like with a cloth. They put the money.
Yeah, with a cloth.
Yes.
Washing the dollars.
Yes, they put it into a washer. What kind of washers do you put money in? That's weird. But yeah, so this is not news because we covered this a great deal 8 weeks ago. I almost didn't even want to cover this at all because I think that we've already said everything that we wanted to say about it. The only real update about it is that the media is now acknowledging that it's happening when they were doing the opposite of that, trying to cover it up back when we covered it 8 weeks ago. And again, we're going to kind of recap some of the stuff that's happened since then and recap what we had talked about 8 weeks ago. But looking back on it, I'm still very proud of our coverage from 8 weeks ago. And it was, we do a lot of commentary, which we're not actual journalism. It's more on the commentary side. It's kind of a spectrum though, but this was one of the times I think we did much more of a journalistic angle because we went to source material and interpreted and researched it ourselves. It wasn't just commentating on what other people were saying about it or on other reports. We went and actually researched the source documents ourselves. So I'm really proud of what we did with that, and I think that we had a good reporting on that. And again, that was 8 weeks ago. We scooped CNN by 8 weeks. So Direwolf Media, everyone. Let's see here. So in 2019, Politico did an extensive article titled "Biden Inc." that covered in great detail how Biden's family had continued to enrich themselves off of selling influence of his office for 50 years. This year, a trove of emails, actually it was last year that a trove of emails was found on a laptop belonging to Hunter Biden. It was given to the FBI, we believe, as early as September in 2019, after which the FBI proceeded to just sit on it and do nothing with it because, it's not like there was a noose on it or something. Seriously, guys, again, we're going to go over this with the election, the sort of fraud or whatever the hell it is. If you guys have something where the left is doing something wrong and you're involved and you're a whistleblower, if you want attention, draw a fucking noose on it. If somebody drew a noose on Hunter Biden's laptop, the FBI would definitely be investigating it. If somebody drew a noose on all of these ballots that look like they're printed and instead of actually filling in the bubble with a pen, it looks like it just came out of a laser printer. If you drew a noose on it, you'd get some FBI agents there, but there's no noose on it. The FBI doesn't want anything to do with it. And maybe a Subway sandwiches level. Yeah. So again, if you guys got anything that's incriminating and you need the FBI to show up to investigate it, just make sure you draw that noose. Good to go. Tie one onto it.
Works every time.
Tie one onto it, and you definitely get one there. Let's see here. So, these emails that were found on this laptop and other evidence that was found on the laptop clearly show that Joe Biden was directly using the power of his elected office to get his son into powerful and lucrative positions. And we have him on video. We have Joe Biden on video bragging, which I know you guys have seen that video. Everybody on the right has played that video of Joe Biden saying that he got the Ukrainian prosecutor fired and he withheld $1 billion of aid. Everybody's seen that video a million times, almost a billion. But we've all seen that. So we've got the hard evidence of it happening. We know, transactionally, that something did happen. And then we have Joe Biden on tape admitting that he did it. So, it's... I guess that's not widespread evidence that he did it, but, I guess words have meaning.
If that's not evidence, I don't know what is.
Let's see here. We already have evidence that Biden gave Hunter a ride on Air Force. I think it was Air Force 2, actually.
I'm sorry, it was
for the purpose of a business deal in China. So Joe was going to China, and then Hunter's like, hey, you know what? I actually have a meeting in China. And Joe was like, oh, well, what are you doing? And Hunter was like, well, I'm going to be selling your name for money, and the Chinese are going to give me a bunch of money, and then you're going to have to do something for them later. And Joe was like, oh, great. Since I'm headed there anyways, why don't you just hop in? It was, it was like carpooling, but with the taxpayer dollar and a very large aircraft. Let's see here. So, in the emails, we also have that there was a business deal where there was 10% stake in a basically a shell company that the Chinese were just dumping money into. And this company didn't do anything but hold money for China that China put into it. And then Joe Biden was, quote, the big guy in those emails, and he got a 10% stake in there. And we have multiple confirmations that Joe Biden was indeed the big guy. Joe Biden, while he was in office, or he did this while he was in office, because these emails date back to the Obama administration. Biden crime family associate, Tony Bobulinski, who, while he may be a Navy veteran, is also a scuffbag, already gave an extensive interview with Fox's Tucker Carlson exposing Biden was getting paid millions by Chinese businesses, and that's nothing to say about how his the rest of his family was faring. Let's see here. None of this is news. What is news is that the left-wing media, who called these stories Russian disinformation, is now talking about it. And not only did they call it Russian disinformation, they got like, was it 50 former national security advisors or something to like sign a letter saying it's Russian
Most
disinformation.
of them work at the same media companies.
Yeah, you had Clapper and Brennan and Kobe all said, "Oh, it's Russian disinformation." Kobe would know. Like Kobe, like all three of them would actually like they would have known at the time that Joe was doing this, and then they're going on TV saying, "Oh no, he never did it."
So CNN published an article saying federal criminal investigations into Hunter Biden focuses on business dealings in China. They finally published an article, but not just CNN, like every major media company all published at the same time. Like, I don't know, maybe there was some sort of coordination between all of them publishing articles at the exact same time on the exact same subject that they'd all been quiet about and calling misinformation or disinformation for the last how many months now? So the AP also said Hunter Biden's subpoenas seek info on Burisma and other entities. They kept saying that Burisma was Russian disinformation. There was nothing to see there. They are throwing it in our faces that they knew that this story or these stories about what Biden and his family have been doing illegally, they're throwing it in our faces that they lied to us. They affected the elections, and they want us to know, right? Like this whole story shows the timeline that all this information was available, that there was ongoing federal FBI investigations into Biden and his Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's brother James. They are admitting that these have been real stories for a very long time, and they're completely ignoring the fact that they've been telling us it was fake for a long time. And they are brazen in doing this because I think they're throwing in our face. They're saying, you have no power to change this. This is the power we have over you. We can affect your elections by controlling what you know.
Alternatively, I know it could be a little bit of that, but I also think that this could be just part of the plan of
Get rid of him. Yeah.
Trying to get rid of him, get Kamala in there as quick as possible. The way Tucker Carlson phrased it is, everybody knew that the plan was that the Joe Biden presidency was just a way of getting Kamala into the office. But you all thought that, they would wait a little while, it might be a year or two. Why wouldn't they do it immediately? Why on earth would you think that they wouldn't immediately, day one, have some kind of scandal that they get Joe Biden for? This one just happens to be a real one. If it wasn't real, well, the Democrats are no strangers to making up a scandal, but they do have a real one here. But why wouldn't they wait? And why wouldn't it just be day one? Joe Biden is too corrupt for the office. He needs to step down. And then now we have President Kamala Harris.
I completely agree with you. That's why I wrote it into the script as well. I think it's a little bit of both, like you said. I think that they like knowing that they are the elite that controls what we're allowed to know. They feel like they are the gatekeepers to the presidency and to power. You have to have the media on your side if you want to have power. They like having that control over politics and the people. But I think that also this was the plan all along because I don't think the Democrats ever agreed with Biden or ever liked Biden. He is someone who is not going to be around for very long anyways. So it's not a very strong investment to invest in someone who that's going to be going away soon. You know.
Yeah. Well, for various reasons. Okay, so The Hill got it right in their article titled "Censoring the Joe Biden Story: How Social Media Became State Media." The response of Twitter and Facebook, however, was to shut it all down. Major media companies also imposed a virtual blackout on the allegations of the Biden crime family. It didn't matter that thousands of emails were available for review, or that the Bidens did not address the materials directly, or that there was, witnesses and timelines that lined up and investigations that were open. It didn't matter. None of that mattered. It was all declared fake news. The tech companies' actions are outrageous examples of open censorship and bias. It shows how private companies effectively can become state media working for one party. This, of course, was more serious than deleting costs. What?
This is a direct quote from the article.
Oh. Well, you don't have it quoted. It
is quoted.
This, of course.
Look at the quote link.
Oh. Well, my bad. What were they writing here? This, of course, was more serious than deleting coughs, but it was based on the exact same excuse of protecting the public. Oh, okay. They mean when they edit, because they edit Joe Biden's clips to pull out him coughing and stuttering, which to the extent that he says anything that isn't mumbling, they try to pull some of that out. So they'll take a 5-minute clip of Joe Biden, and you get that pared down to a 20-second sentence that's maybe coherent, but that's what they do. They'll edit him down. So it's much that's pretty bad, but it's way worse to just black out the entire internet for a story right before the election. That's nuts. Indeed, it was all the realization of a political candidate. Academia calls. Who wrote this? You copied this? This is unreadable. This doesn't make any sense. That's one of the worst paragraphs I've ever read. I still don't know what it's trying to say at the end there. All right, move on. Jesus Christ, The Hill.
So we're at
CNN.
A little too far. All right. So the point they were making though was that social media had been working in lockstep with the Democrat Party as their propaganda wing. It was no better than China and their controlled media. CNN was pretty transparent in their article about how they've been working for political reasons. CNN's article said that after going quiet in the months before the election, that the federal authorities are now actively investigating business dealings of Hunter Biden. Now, they're admitting that the investigation was being quiet about the fact that it existed and the evidence around Biden, and saying nothing. And then, so that's the FBI, staying quiet for political reasons. But then CNN went on to say that now that the election is over, the investigation is entering a new phase. Now that the election is over, they can now talk about it. They can now accept that it exists, this investigation, because they no longer are controlled by their political aspirations of trying to get him to become president. They're very, very transparent about it. And then they go on to talk about how there's subpoenas and hearings happening for both Biden and James. They made it clear that they were controlling what they will report for the express purpose of realizing political outcomes. They are now the state media, no less corrupt or untrustworthy than the Chinese national news media. The only difference between the Chinese national news media and the left-wing news like CNN is that instead of being controlled by a party or by the all of government, the Democrat-controlled media is controlled just by one party.
Do you know what the true difference is between fascism and communism is? I know those words get tossed around a lot, but you know what at the core of it, what the difference
working with the government?
Yeah, so under communism, the government takes over the corporations. Under fascism, it is typically a union and or a reverse takeover of the corporations taking over the government. So
Yes.
this the media are actually acting in a fascist manner by teaming up and doing the bidding of the deep state without even having to be asked. How kind of them.
And well, the Democrats are also working in a fascist way because they are deeply connected to and involved with those same companies that are seeking to control the government, because they are the avenue of doing that.
Did you get in here about Biden's picks for nominees so far?
Yes, it is.
Is that
yes,
here later?
It's near the end.
Okay.
So it's not something new that the Democrats have been calling for censorship from the media. Hillary Clinton, Adam Schiff, and Joe Biden himself are just a few, and it's of a very long list of top Democrats who've called for censorship of private media companies. Recently, also, because this is the people who are teaching our kids, the universities have been teaching the same idea that the media should censor political opinions that aren't the approved one of the people in power. A Harvard law professor, Jack Goldsmith, and University of Arizona law professor Andrew Keen Woods called for Chinese-style internet censorship and declared, in quotes, "In the great debate of the past 2 decades about freedom versus control of the network, China was largely right, and the United States was largely wrong. They believed we should have the control over our media that China does. And not only that, the control over the social media, specifically, because they want anyone with a disparate idea, any kind of different opinion, to be erased."
Do you think that's why Obama had the intelligence community wiretapping AP journalists and using the IRS to go after their families over reports of whistleblowers?
I highly suspected so.
This seems to be a correlation.
Yeah.
Sure. So speaking of China, as we were, they are pretty thrilled that we have elected, supposedly, allegedly, without evidence, elected a person who even the media is having to, literally without evidence, elected a person who the media is having to admit is compromised. We recently had a video from a Chinese TV show go viral. Tucker Carlson brought that to the world. Thank you, Tucker. A Chinese professor openly bragging about how the Chinese government has, quote, old friends in top political offices and cores of influence in the United States politics. He said that the Obama administration was particularly easy to administer or to manipulate, and that the Chinese had a lot of friends in the Obama administration. And all the way back to 1992. He was very specific that it was from 1992 until 2016. They had a lot of old friends and influence in the United States halls of power. I wonder which presidents we had in 92 to 2016. I can't remember. Chat, why don't you help me out with which ones those were? So I lost my spot here. Let's see. He said that the Trump administration, however, presented a severe problem for China. They said that they couldn't, quote, fix Trump. Fix Trump? There's nothing to fix. He's not broken. He's not broke. Don't fix him. They also said that Trump was so much of a problem that the political elites and traditional establishment of whom China had so many friends set out to elect a new president, Joe Biden. This Chinese professor also openly bragged that the Chinese government had vested interest in helping get Biden elected. And also, he directly said, who do you think helped Hunter Biden set up his business deals? Obviously implying that was the Chinese government. This video included way too much truth, and so it was promptly scrubbed from Chinese social media and was promptly scrubbed from U.S. social media as the U.S. media just ignored it as much as possible, except for Tucker.
CNN tried to report on evidence and investigations into Hunter Biden, but continue to say that Joe is innocent. They said, in quotes, his father, President-elect Joe Biden, is not implicated as far as the investigations from the FBI. However, Joe Biden being guilty of using foreign policy to enrich himself while he was controlling said foreign policy, and Joe Biden being responsible for masterminding tax fraud and money laundering are at the heart of the charges against Hunter. You can't implicate one without the other. Without what Biden, being Joe Biden, did, there is no case against Hunter. So it's kind of funny for CNN to throw that little bit in there because it's completely untrue.
Well, also, there's no evidence that Joe Biden did anything at all. It was only Hunter doing it. Yes, thank you, CNN. We know, because the allegation is that Hunter was doing it on behalf of Joe to hide that Joe was involved. So, of course, there's no evidence that Joe was involved. That's the core of the allegation.
Right. So, again, as we covered before, this could be their plan to remove Biden from the equation for the ultimate goal of a Kamala Harris presidency. The Chinese-owned Democrat political elites don't care what puppet is in office. They only demand that it is their hand up their asses making them speak. The Senate Republicans, on the other hand, said that in a report earlier this year that it is a massive conflict of interest that the Biden cabinet appointees that he would be appointing if he becomes president would be responsible for conducting the case against his son. That'd be a massive
special counsel. Special counsel.
It's a huge conflict of interest. Of course, it can't be done, fairly. So they say there should be a special prosecutor, and we completely agree. I mean, they did a special prosecutor for Trump based on evidence that they knew was fake. So why wouldn't they do it for this, right? It's only fair.
Yeah, for sure. And they should launch it just because it doesn't really matter when. It just needs to be before Trump leaves office. They should launch it at like 11:59 a.m. on Inauguration Day just to really stick it to him. We're doing it specifically because of you, Biden. Like, not any don't even make a pretense that we're trying to do it, like, because it needs to be done, right? But don't make a pretense that like we're trying to do it the right way, because no matter how you do it, the left is going to say, oh, well, you're just doing this corruptly. You know what? Just lean into it and be like, yeah, you know what? If that's what you want to believe, sure. And we're just to prove it, we're going to do it at 11:59 at the last second, just to stick it to you that we're doing it right as you're walking into office. Immediately, there will be a investigation into you. Please enjoy the special counsel. And they should. Who should they appoint as special counsel? That would be maybe they could put Ted Cruz in there as
Giuliani.
Nah, I'm not. I'm unimpressed with Giuliani's lawyering capabilities. He's clearly not been a lawyer in a very long time.
I thought we were just talking about salt. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was thinking like a Ted Cruz, because I think Ted Cruz would be good at it. And as I've stated previously on the show, Ted Cruz is, contrary to popular belief, not doing a whole lot in the Senate right now.
Really? What popular belief is that he's doing stuff right now?
Crowder sure seems to think so. All the all the much bigger commentators than us seem to really like Ted Cruz. Not that I don't like him, I just think that he's really good at selling books and really good at grandstanding at hearings, just not really good at proposing legislation or doing stuff. You know.
Oh, you can give speeches for days.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
But if you pulled him out of there and stuck him in a special counsel position, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he could actually. Maybe he would shine.
He has argued cases before the Supreme Court multiple times,
yeah.
So maybe he is a good lawyer.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he is a good lawyer. So that would be probably like a great prosecutor. All right, my turn.
Yep.
So speaking of Biden's cabinet, as I was earlier when I was a little early on it. Joe Biden's cabinet, as it turns out, has been returning the favor to those who helped get him elected. Joe Biden's cabinet thus far has included lobbyists, top employees from social media companies like Facebook and was there other ones besides Facebook? No, it's Facebook and Google. So there's been several like heads of departments from Facebook and Google who are now finding themselves in the new administration, and Wall Street elites, because of course Biden did this in a rejection of Democrat activists and legislatures who demanded that his cabinet be, quote, diverse and not include any former lobbyists, because, you know, you're not supposed to do that. He's also, which I don't know if you can even comment on it, Dyer, the guy he's got for, was it the DOD, the general guy? Do you know what I'm talking about?
He's still active duty, right?
No, so he is no longer active duty. He retired 4 years ago, and he's since been he's on the board of like 3 or 4 different like weapons companies, like major like Lockheed type companies. He retired very well, but so the head of the DOD is supposed to be a civilian because we have civilian control of the military, which I've talked about before as a unique aspect of our country throughout history. Very important. And the one of the limits on that is that if you were active duty military, you need to have been retired for 7 years before you can take on a position like that. And that's because if you just retire out of the military and go directly in charge of the DOD, it kind of makes a joke out of the whole civilian control, because you're quote unquote technically a civilian, but you've not been out long enough for it to really count. It kind of makes a mockery of the idea that we have civilians in control, because you're really just shuffling around military people. Not that there's anything wrong with military people. His name's Dyer. So Biden's trying to get this guy in there, and I do think it's an issue that he is recently former military, but I think it's much more of an issue that he's currently on the board of 4 different weapons companies, and now he's going to be in charge of the DOD. And also, this guy is I haven't done enough research on him. Maybe we'll do some more research. We'll have ostensibly 4 years to go through all of the shit this administration is doing.
A Obama era loyalist who I think was he not one of the ones who was fired?
No, so as well as I'm getting to. Hold on a second. So he, from what I've read so far, we'll get more into detail on this in the coming weeks, months, and years. He was one of the architects of the previous invasions of, I think, Enduring Freedom, which I think was lovingly called Enduring Clusterfuck. So he was a part, this guy that Joe Biden wants to be head of the DOD, military guy, used his position to get corrupt positions on weapons companies' boards. Also did a horrible job of managing our deployments in the Middle East, making sure that war took as long as possible and killed as many soldiers as possible. He's one of those guys, kind of like what was that one Navy general? I can't remember his name. There's a lot of the top brass like that kind of get into the political. Yeah, they get into the political side of it, and then they just really get that. They really like that war stuff because they're not out there fighting it. He's just behind a desk collecting paychecks from Lockheed.
On that topic, it naturally becomes very political the higher you go in rank, and you are basically like a politician, no different from a politician as a general. They very often have their hands in the pots of money that the different military contractors that they're working with. So I know a lot of military leaders that are on the higher echelons that have personal relationships with the companies that the military buys from. And they build those relationships. They often get themselves invested in those companies, and they have jobs waiting for them when they get out. If they don't go into politics, they can go work on boards of those contracting companies and make millions off of the deals that they put in place when they were in, I don't want to say in office, but while they were serving, right? So it is a common problem, and it's not illegal for you to create all these requirements that are filled by a company. And then when you leave, you just get hired by the company, right? It's not illegal. It is definitely a perverse incentive. It's even worse if you're someone who is doing that, who then immediately gets hired into the civilian leadership and is has even more control over what the military is doing and is benefiting from it still from those companies.
Well, because he'll be going into the DoD and then presumably orchestrating and designing missions and invasions that are using as much stuff from the companies he was just on the board of, buying as much stuff from them as possible. I'm trying to remember through some of the stuff I've heard about him. I know Breitbart did a small segment on him a couple of days ago, but like one of his kind of key missions that he was famous for was his mission in Afghanistan to like secure an area, and he spent like something like a couple $1 billion, like 10 or more $1 billion, and like the mission result, it was like 60, like a 60-man team like guarding this small base, and like somehow that cost $10 billion, and no one knows where all that money went. So that's the kind of now we've talked about all of this, and I haven't even mentioned that he's black. But as we know, in the Biden administration, that's the only qualification. You don't actually need to be good at your job. See Kamala Harris. You don't actually need to be good at your job. You just need to have the right skin color. It really is meaningless, but clearly that's what Biden's picking this guy for, because if you look at his record, he's the kind of military record that Biden would probably appreciate.
He's not bringing our best.
Yeah, not bringing our best. It's the kind of military record that is as wasteful of human life, military, United States blood and treasure as possible. And that was really the Obama administration was as wasteful with military life as possible, as wasteful with American tax dollars as possible. Joe Biden, that was kind of his strategy for his 40 years in Congress. So, it's we're building back better. The back better is the old regime of the military industrial complex. You're going to bring us back to the old days where the politicians could just be corrupt and no one would say anything about it. The military industrial complex could just spend all of our money and kill all of our soldiers and no one would say anything about it. So, we're going back. This is what going back to stability looks like. You guys thought the Trump era was crazy when we stopped doing that and we had all these peace deals, but I know what Americans really want is the safety, security, and stability of killing as many soldiers as possible and wasting as much taxpayer dollars as possible in foreign wars that nobody understands why we're there. That's really what keeps me safe at night, is knowing that that's happening. Thank you, Biden. Thank you.
Few things are more despicable than someone who knows what it's like, has been in the position of those that they are victimizing. He's supposed to have been a leader of soldiers for a very long time, supposedly cared about their health and their welfare, and have been able to empathize with their lifestyle, and yet he's willingly throwing them away, their lives away, for money.
I don't know how he got to be a general, because I was reliably informed that no black person has ever been promoted beyond the rank of private or airman or seaman first class. So I don't know how he got promoted to general. That must have been somebody must have done a paperwork error, because I was reliably informed that unless you were white, you could not get promoted in the military.
There was someone under my leadership who was new, who didn't know me yet, who I heard from an NCO had complained that they thought they could not do well in the military because of their skin color. They thought because they were black that they could not succeed. And I asked that person to come to my office, and I asked them, so, hey, you're not in trouble, but I've heard that you have this opinion that you cannot do well. Can you please explain to me why you think that is the case, and what has happened to make you think that? And then after they gave their opinion, I says, do you realize, what is the skin color of your first sergeant? Oh, black. Okay. What is the skin color of our chief? Black. Okay. What is the skin color of your immediate supervisor? Also black. Oh. Oh. I went through all the way up the chain. How we have black individuals at every level of leadership, and I said, here, the first 4 people in the chain, that person, they did this in their career. They excelled here. They went to this base. I knew them well enough to talk about them and their achievements. This person got promoted to be a chief because of these things they did, right? And it's not they got there because of their merits, not because of their skin color. So when you see all this ahead of you, all the people ahead of you, why would you think that you cannot do well in the military?
You know, and, if this was happening under Trump, if Trump had re-promoted this guy, you know what the left would be saying. Oh, well, he's not really black. Or Trump's just tokenizing him. Trump would have never selected him, though, because Trump would have looked at his record. All right, so enough of that. Is that enough of that? Are we done with that spot? I think so.
No,
yes.
yeah. So next.
Well,
story,
yes.
next.
Well, I got the next little segment here. So,
Yeah.
just in general, obviously it'll be won't be the last time we're talking about the incoming Biden administration. Like I said, we'll have a good 4 years to cover. I'll do it at a nice leisurely pace. But maybe to avoid all that, there is, as some people have talked about, this mysterious Executive Order 52, which is not a conspiracy theory. It is a real order that was done under the Bush administration. A lot of weird things happened under the Bush administration that gave the executive branch a lot of superpowers. Don't agree with basically any of them, but be that as it may, my disagreement with it doesn't make it not exist, and Order 52 does indeed exist. And what it gives the president the power to do is to dissolve the entire federal government. That would be the both chambers of the legislature and the Supreme Court, and presumably even the presidency or any kind of structures like the bureaucracies that are attached to the presidency could all be dissolved with the snap of a finger. They should call it the snap bill.
Yeah.
But what it would allow, what the reason why, presumably, although the executive order says what the reasoning is for, but the actual order doesn't like put a safeguard that it has to be for that reason. It can be for any reason at all. But it would just allow the president to dissolve the government and then reform it around the executive branch, presumably in the time of emergency. So, in my opinion, if we have what is an obvious Chinese asset, China being a very primary adversary, we have them lots of evidence of widespread voter fraud, a lot of funny business that's not been answered for, and very clearly the Democrats working as closely with the Chinese as possible in a lot of this stuff. Joe Biden clearly very compromised with the Chinese, clearly under their control, at the admission of China. At China admitting that they have control of Joe Biden and many other elected officials. If that's not enough to execute Order 52, I would imagine that nothing would meet the burden of that. If we are facing down the barrel of the gun that China is about to install a president in our country, that our adversary is going to take over our nation's highest office, if that's not a reason to emergency dissolve the government and reform it, I don't know what else would be. I don't know what else would ever meet that burden. That's just my opinion, though.
I think you want to watch the world burn.
It's just a theory of political theory.
I don't know. That's pretty drastic. It would be very Star Wars-esque, though, and
well,
that would make.
No, but like, I mean, well, think about it. So it does sound crazy, but like, if you actually believe, like if you really do believe that Joe Biden is an asset of China, if you believe that everything that the left believed about Trump being an asset of Russia, like a sleeper agent for the Soviets, all that stuff, if you believe that about Joe. And I think that there's actually some evidence that it's true with Joe. If you do actually believe that, why wouldn't that constitute an emergency worthy of something that drastic that otherwise we would have an adversary take over the country. I mean,
I think that there possibly, minute possibility that there could be other solutions to that problem.
we got some later stories about those other possible solutions getting shut down, and we'll have some opinions on that. But as the Supreme Court and the Democrats and the other courts throughout the states, as they shut down the legal avenue of contesting this and the legal avenues of exposing fraud and corruption, as the media helps cover this stuff up, as they start eliminating our ability to deal with this correctly with the legal system, then there's less and less options, less and less moderate options to take.
They are tearing down
Yeah.
the system that allows us to have peaceful transitions of power that wouldn't require what you're talking about. They are very quickly and intently removing those safeguards. You're right.
When you remove all of the moderate options, what's left?
It's like taking the brakes off a car as it's going downhill, which I would not recommend doing. So, speaking of being corrupted by the Chinese, Eric Swalwell, who swears up and down that he was a legitimate candidate for president, has it was reported that he this week has been honeypotted. In fact, it was reported this week that he has been honeypotted many times by a Chinese spy named Fang Feng, who went bang bang with several Democrat politicians for years, back when she was still pretty. She apparently really got around and fucked her way into close proximity to politicians with top security clearances and zero control over their bowels while on live television.
Yes. Jeez.
So
Swalwell was literally in bed with China. Now we can't say for certain that Swalwell fucked a Chinese spy and gave her state secrets, because he's also on the House Intel Committee, so he would have access to classified information. Now we're not saying that he had sex with her and she got classified information out of him, but if we ask that question, we can't get the answer because it's classified. Yes, that's correct. It is classified whether or not Swalwell had sex with a Chinese spy that led to the dissemination or the leaking of classified state secrets.
it's on video.
Even though it's on video. So, yes, also apparently there's an FBI video somewhere of Swalwell having sex with
Multiple videos. Actually, it was multiple.
Yeah, so not only did Swalwell have sex with this girl, this Chinese spy, a bunch of other Democrats also had sex with her, and the FBI was monitoring it and had video of it. So, that's a lot of fun. But again, asking the question like, hey, Swalwell, did you having sex with a Chinese spy lead to classified information getting leaked to the Chinese? You can't ask that because it's classified. Now, Dyer, did you ever have sex with a Chinese spy that led to the dissemination of classified secrets to our adversaries?
I have not, and also just not had sex with a Chinese spy.
Okay, see, that was pretty easy.
I don't need all the
Now,
have you had sex with a Chinese spy?
she's not that hot. Gay. No.
This is a very old photo, by the way. She's does not look like that anymore.
Well, I mean, after you let Swalwell fuck you, I mean that takes a toll, right?
I think that Swalwell and this whole honeypot situation is a good lesson for everyone. Like, when someone is treating you like a 10 when you know you're a 6, there's something up.
Yeah. But as you just saw, Dyer and I were both pretty easily able to answer yes answer no. Sorry. Now, if instead of saying no, if Dyer had said, "Well, that's classified," I think you guys know what you would probably think the real answer was, right? It seems pretty obvious that if you can't answer no and you instead answer that's classified, whether or not you leaked state secrets,
it means yes.
It kind of means yes. It kind of means yes. But it could happen to anybody. And Pelosi rode into his defense this week, and here's what she had to say.
In terms of Mr. Swalwell, in the spring of 2015, the leadership of the House and the committee were informed that overtures from a Chinese person were being made to members of Congress. When that was made known to the members of Congress, it was over. That was the end of any communication with those people. So it isn't. I think we should make sure that everybody knows what they are being subjected to. But I don't know that.
Really, he's the victim in all this. he's the poor man.
It means that we have to background checks for every intern who comes into the Capitol.
What
they are being subjected to. But I don't know that it means that we have to background checks for every intern who comes into the Capitol.
Yeah, so Nancy doesn't think that we need to background check every intern at the Capitol. You're talking about how many interns? So there would be what? There's 536 or 538. Yeah, 538 representatives between Congress and between the House and the Senate. Sorry. Let's say each one even has
100.
5 what?
They could have up to 100, right?
Interns each?
Oh no, just employees, not just interns.
No, I don't know. Anyways, but you're talking about like a countable number of people, like interns or employees or whatever. Like at most, you're talking about like 2 to maybe 5,000 people. Nancy's saying we can't do background checks on 2 to 5,000 people who are going to have close contact with our elected officials in the highest offices of the land. Yet she is part of the party that wants you to have a background check every time you look at your gun.
Yes, there is.
Well, we couldn't. It's not like we could. We don't got time to do background checks. That's crazy to suggest that we could background check that many people. That's insane. You don't expect us to do something insane, do you?
The government currently does like 1 million or more background checks on its own employees every single year. I think if we go with the higher number of 5,000 for just the interns and employees on the staff of congressmen, I think they can do it.
Well, and you know what's crazy is that Nancy kind of just gave away something I don't think she meant to give away, which is that, I've never really thought about it, but I guess if you had asked me randomly last week, like, hey, Fox, do you think that to be an intern for a congressman that you have to get a background check? I'd say, like, yeah, probably that would make sense. Nancy just said that that's not standard practice. That's insane.
That's crazy.
That's nuts. That's so crazy that wouldn't be standard practice. That you would have, because again, you're going to have congressmen that are in and around classified material at all hours of the day, especially Swalwell being on the House Intel Committee. Like, you would think, like, okay, maybe not everyone needs to have background checked, they're interns or whatever, they're not doing important stuff, probably like AOC. But someone like Swalwell, not that he's doing anything important, but he's on a classified intel committee. You would think that there'd be paperwork in and around his office and discussions going on, and just having access to like his devices and his clothes and stuff like that. I mean, like, just having access to like,
Be gone from me, you soy boy beta cock. The transaction is complete.
You guys are burying the lead for the story. The real shock about all of this is not that Swalwell was compromised by a Chinese spy. The real story is that Slowpoke Garcia is a goddamn prophet, and he was 100 right. Nuclear cummies will destroy us.
Yes, they will.
God damn it. Derailed for that.
Absolutely. So, but no, you just like, if you're a Chinese spy. So one of the other things is that this Fang Fang also got several interns on Capitol Hill because the Democrats all liked her. She also bundled a lot of money to get Swalwell elected in the first place. So you wonder how a dunce like Swalwell gets into office. It's because the fucking Chinese put him there. Like, it's like, oh, like how does somebody that stupid get his way into politics? Oh, because the Chinese like selected him and funded his campaign. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And this Fang Fang too, she also the way that she got embedded in Democrat circles is through university SJW clubs. Great. So if you're at one of our prominent liberal institutions and you see the president of the Chinese student organization, and you think, I wonder if she's a spy. You're probably right.
Okay, so security clearances aren't just for determining who might be a insider threat as far as stealing information. Security clearances also help screen for people who might be a physical threat, who might want to hurt somebody. It seems like a common sense practice to do security clearances to make sure you don't have like violent criminals working in the halls of power of our country.
Well, and also it's not just about them, but it's about like you. Like if you need security clearance, they don't just look at you; they look at the people that you're close to as well to see if that's something that could compromise you. I mean, you've talked a little bit about stuff. I don't know if you want to give any more story, but like just getting security clearances, like you also have people in your circle that also need to be checked out and stuff like that too. And so you would think that someone like Swalwell, that they wouldn't just, because he's on a classified intel committee, that they wouldn't just be security clearing him, but they would be helping security clear his whole office, which I guess that's probably why the FBI caught them having sex, but...
They need a contact for every place I've lived, every place I've worked, and anyone who is a foreign national who I am an associate of, and they will investigate those members. They will do a check to see my history in all the places I've been, and it's pretty exhaustive investigation. And then they still will, interview a lot of people I know. So yes, they will definitely look into everyone you know.
Dyer's got a lot of bones in his closet. It's because of the dogs.
Unfortunately, my wife's a foreign national, so I do have foreign contacts.
And their bones are in his closet. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what do we got on YouTube here? We had a small handful on YouTube. Got a pretty lively crowd on DLive though. If you are over on YouTube, now is the time to head over to DLive so that we can talk about things that cannot be spoken on YouTube.
We may or may not be talking about election fraud, and on a completely separate note, we might also be talking about the results of the election. But don't worry, we will not connect the two.
Yes. The erection fraud and erection results. So head over to DLive.